Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about is an RTX 4050 an entry-level GPU, graphics processing unit. Is it powerful enough to play the latest games? So this is a question that people ask. Is it any good? An RTX 4050 entry-level NVIDIA chipset model, is it any good? So we are going to talk about that today, and I'm not going to let you wait for a long time. I bought several games. I bought I checked the entire internet for the most heaviest games. So games that need some processing power to play. So I checked the entire internet. I contacted artificial intelligence to answer that question. I checked Google. I checked Bing. I checked everything. So I bought the top 10 of games straightforward directly now that the RTX 4050 is powerful enough to handle all games I played so far. More than 10 games, the most heaviest games, they all run very smoothly. I have not had any problems with it. I easily get 60 frames per second with the settings to ultra. So the highest possible graphic setting, high, ultra, I get 60 frames per second, and that's something we have to have. 60 frames per second is the standard. That's a good frame rate. The higher the better, but 60 frame rate is more than enough. So I tested it with all games, all possible games that are very heavy, and I everywhere got 60 frames per second. And I will go to show you it now. Yes. The first game we want to test is Cyberpunk 2077. The preset is ultra, so everything is put on ultra, the highest possible setting. We have put frame generation on, and yes, we are going to test it. So we go to run the benchmark. Don't forget, I'm running other program software on my laptop for the moment, so my laptop is under usage, but I have no problems with it because I know it don't affect the GPU. We run this game from the GPU and not from the CPU, so we go to test it now, how fast it is. So I have a second screen here with my monitor, and we now get 60 frames per second, 60 FPS, so this is good. It's just the beginning. 60 FPS, and the GPU is only 60% in use. So it only uses the GPU from RTX 4050, only uses 65% now from the processor. And we get 68 frames, 69 frames, 70 frames, 80 frames per second. So this is good, huh? We continue. 60 frames, above 60 frames, 70 frames, 10 milliseconds reaction time, 80 frames per second, 15 milliseconds reaction time. This is good, huh? For an entry-level RTX 4050, this is excellent. So this is what we want. The game runs fluently, there are no problems with it so far. Yeah, it works. So this is with the frame generation on, ultra settings. So yeah, this is a good result, huh? This is a very good result. "70 frames average," and I'm using still other software on my computer. So my computer is in use now with other software. So I'm not using full capacity for the game, but I easily get 70 frames per second, and I'm using other software on the computer. So is the RTX 4050 good or not? It is good. We get at least 60 FPS, frames per second, and that's what we want. With ultra settings, it's excellent. We also go to try it now without frame generation, and we go to see what it gives. This is the setting without frame generation, the highest possible setting. So yeah, we go to see what it gives. Ultra setting, frame generation off, run benchmark, and we go to see what it gives. Hold on a second, it's loading. It's almost finished. Voila, the load is complete. The GPU is used for 80% average. We get almost 50 frames per second, 50 frames per second, 56 frames per second, around 50 frames per second without frame generation on the ultra setting. Is this good? This is very good. 53 frames, 57, 60 frames, 60 frames, 65 frames. This is good, huh? This is what we want. We want 60 frames per second at least, and we get it. We get it with frame generation off, ultra settings. It's good, huh? We cannot complain about it. So, yeah, what you want more? Yes. The next game we are testing now is Red Dead Redemption number 2. So I have put it on my screen here, and yes, I took ultra quality, 1080p, and we go to run the benchmark now. Okay, it's running. The virtual memory that is used now from the GPU, from the 6 gigabytes we have, it's 1.8 gigabytes in use. But we go to see what the benchmark does. It's running now, Red Dead Redemption 2. I put it on limitation of 60 frames per second. That's the limitation. I capped it at that speed, so I can take a higher speed if I want, but I just kept it at 60, and it's giving now 60 frames per second with the response time of 15 milliseconds, 15 to 60 milliseconds. The virtual memory now in use is 3.6 gigabytes, 3.7 gigabytes from the 6 gigabytes we have. So the game is running, huh? It runs, huh? And we get over the 50 frames per second, 50, 53, 54. It's now giving 4 gigabytes of VRAM in use from the 6 gigabytes, so that we have enough VRAM up till now, and the game is running smoothly. It's running at 45 frames per second now. 46, 45 with a response time of 22 milliseconds. So that's good, huh? For ultra settings. And we have not used the full amount of the GPU, because the GPU is not running over 50-60%. So yes, we have a lot of more resources left now. So the GPU is not fully used, and we get 50 frames per second now. So that's good, huh? 20 milliseconds response time, 50 frames per second. Now the GPU is used for 98%. But it doesn't last long. It never uses it completely. There is a lot of resources left. We have 4 gigabytes of RAM in use from the 6 gigabytes VRAM, and we have maybe like 70% usage of the GPU power. So that gives us the conclusion that the RTX4050 is very capable of running heavy games. So it runs, huh? You have no problems with it. It's ultra setting. If you lower the frame, if you lower the settings, the quality of the image, then you even get double or triple the speed from that. But we go to do that later. This is a 1080p screen, 1080p with ultra settings. We get 45 frames per second, 47, 50 frames per second. So it runs, and it's a beautiful screen, and the GPU is in use for about 70% average, and the VRAM 4 gigabytes from 6 gigabytes. So is this usable? The RTX 4050 NVIDIA graphics processor? You see what you see. It is very capable of it. So we go to test the next game. Okay, this is the next game we are testing now. It is the Starfield game. It's from 2023, and yes, we go to see what it gives. It is loading. Yes, it is loading, and I can tell you that it is running at 100% GPU usage. So the GPU is used for 100%, and we get 54 frames per second now. 54 frames per second, 20 milliseconds response time, and the virtual memory of the GPU is used for 2.5 gigabytes from 6 gigabytes. So far, so good.
Listen to me. Mining's just like any other job. Go steady, go safe, go home.
Hold on, huh? I go to show you more within a few seconds. Okay, we are now in the gameplay, and we get 48, 50 frames per second, 55 frames, 55 frames, 3 gigabytes usage of VRAM from the 6, so that's good, only 50% VRAM usage, 100% usage of the GPU, and we get over 50 frames per second with a response time of below 20 milliseconds, 14 milliseconds, 50 milliseconds, 20. So it works, huh? Over 50 frames per second, 55 frames. Voila, this is Starfield. So the results are good with the RTX4050 Ultra settings 1080p. We are now playing The Witcher 3, and we get 60 frames per second, but I think it's capped. Ultra settings, 14 milliseconds response time, and we have 2.4 gigabytes of VRAM usage from the 6 gigabytes. And the GPU is running at around 85%. This is good. This is very good. We get the 60 frames per second from a RTX 4050, low powered. It's a low powered QMax technology with 40 watts of GPU power usage. This is good. Okay, we go to the next game. We go to the next game 60 frames per second, so this is good. We are now playing GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, and we play it at very high setting. That's the maximum. It's an old game. It's capped at 144 frames per second, and yes. It's 144 frames per second, so it runs at the max. It's maxed out, so this is good for an old game. That old, it isn't that old, but it's quite older. It's already different years old, but it runs. I capped it at 144 frames per second, and it runs at 144 frames per second. The VRAM is only in use 1 gigabyte of 6. And the GPU is not yet 50% in use. So, is it good, the RTX 4050? Yes or not? I leave the answer to you, but I like it. I get a very decent gameplay with it. Okay, now we are playing Hogwarts Legacy. I just opened it. I get 90 frames per second with a 10 milliseconds response time. The GPU is used for 70%. The VRAM is used for 4 gigabytes from 6 gigabytes of VRAM. So 80 frames per second. That's good, huh? That's very good, huh? To play a game. That's very good. 85 frames per second, 10 milliseconds response time, 70% usage of the GPU, 4.5 gigabytes VRAM over the 6 gigabytes VRAM. So this is all good, huh?
Professor?
Hold on a second, I will show you more within a few seconds. Okay, I'm still in Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm playing it 80 frames per second, the highest possible settings, 10 milliseconds response time, 70% GPU usage, 4.5 of the 6 gigabytes of VRAM usage. It plays very well. It does a good job. Yes, I have a lot of more games, but I'm not going to show you all of them because it will take a lot of time. So the conclusion is an RTX 4050 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM and low power usage, QMax technology. Is it any good? This is the lowest of the lowest graphic card that you can get at the moment. RTX 4050 entry level model. Is it any good for gaming? And the conclusion is yes. You easily get 60 frames at ultra high settings, the highest settings, 60 frames. There are games with 144 frames, the maximum that the screen can get, because the screen refreshes at 144, my screen. So I capped it at that, no more frames than 144, because it's useless. More than that, it's overkill. So I kept everything at 144 frames per second, and there are many games I get 144 frames per second, so it's good. I never got under 45 frames. It's always 50 frames, 60 frames, 80 frames, 90 frames, 144 frames. So RTX 4050 entry level model is definitely good. I hope you like my video. Don't forget to subscribe, because we are giving away nice prizes to subscribers of our channel. We are giving away laptops, mobile phones, Bluetooth stuff, computer stuff, anything you can think about. If we have something and we give it away, you only have to subscribe and you will be notified when you win something. I hope you like my video, and yes, if you like it, please like. Bye bye.